Welcome to the #1 source for information, news, and opinion on your Columbus Blue Jackets. This is CBJin30, presented by Telhio Credit Union. You can also find the audio version on the CBJ Radio SoundCloud page, Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, Spotify, Google Play Music, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Now here's your host, Bob McElligott.
It has been such a long time, but finally, the Blue Jackets are back on the ice tonight, and they will take on Boston, the Boston Bruins, in an exhibition game prior to the start of their play-in series with the Toronto Maple Leafs, which starts on Sunday. Welcome to another edition of CBJin30, presented by Telhio Credit Union. I've got a big show for you today. We've got Joe Haggerty from NBCSports.com in Boston, and I also have Blue Jackets head coach John Tortorella talking about the setup for this game tonight between the Blue Jackets and the Bruins. A rematch of last year's second-round playoff series that the Bruins won in 6 games and then moved on and went all the way to the Stanley Cup Final and lost to the St. Louis Blues. First, before we get to all of that stuff, I've got to tell you that CBJin30 is brought to you by Telhio Credit Union, and that is a place over Telhio where they are just so used to putting people over profits. It's not new for them. They've done it for many, 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 many years. Since all the way back in 1934. Yeah, that's right. They've come through a Great Depression. They've come through now a pandemic. They're still there. They're still doing it all for you at Telhio Credit Union. There's no need for you to settle for a normal bank. Why should you do that when you can have a credit union that puts you first? First, number one, top of the list. No doubt about it. So make sure you check out telhio.org and find out all you can about Telhio Credit Union and what they can do for you. And do that today, before the game today. All right, 7 o'clock game tonight. Blue Jackets and the Boston Bruins. We'll have full coverage of that game for you. By the way, on the Blue Jackets radio network, starting at 6:30 with pregame. Fox Sports Ohio's got it at 7 o'clock as well tonight. All right, Blue Jackets making some changes in practice yesterday. The lines that had been together and looked like they were pretty set are no longer pretty set. John Tortorella will talk about that. He'll talk about the one line in particular, the line that I like, the line that I've talked about a lot, and that is Alexander Wenberg in between Alexander Texier and Emil Bemstrom. That one going bye-byes, and Torts will talk about that. And there's one guy on that line that he really likes, and you'll find out who it is, and you might be surprised. If you're paying attention, you're not surprised. But maybe you're not paying attention or you're paying half attention, so you will be surprised. I'm not sure. We'll find out as we go along. But the Blue Jackets, they've got a lot to show tonight, both individually and as a group. And there are 2 guys that have a whole lot to show, and that's why I'm going to take you right now to our Stats and Leaders segment. It's being brought to you by Franklin University. Franklin makes it possible. And the 2 guys that really have a lot riding on what goes on starting tonight is the goaltending tandem of Joonas Korpisalo and Elvis Merzlikins. And we go through the year with these 2 guys. The goals against average leader was Elvis. 2.35 is what he ended with. That's almost unheard of and unthinkable, by the way. Remember his first game? Remember when he went into Pittsburgh and he gave up 7? And he has a 2.35? I know when you give up a lot early, you can whittle it down, but it wasn't just that game. He had lofty numbers. And boy, did he bring it down with the run that he went on. And 5 shutouts in 8 games will help that too, by the way, which he did at one point during the season. 2.35 his goals against. Joonas Korpisalo checked in second at 2.60. And even Matiss Kivlenieks, who I don't know about you, but I never thought I would see make an NHL debut this year. He did, and he wound up with a 2.95. So those are your goaltending leaders, brought to you by Franklin University. It's on them tonight, those 2 guys. Kivlenieks won't be in this game tonight. It's up to the other 2 guys to figure out who's going to get the starting job. Who is going to, as they say, take the bull by the horns? Who wants it? And getting the job and keeping the job in this case, by the way, are two separate things. I don't know what's going to be harder, getting the job or keeping the job. That will be interesting to watch, really interesting to watch. But right now, it's going to be interesting to listen because it's time for our interview brought to you by the Columbus Dispatch. I had a chance to catch up with Blue Jackets head coach John Tortorella late yesterday, talking about this game against Boston tonight. Hey, I just wanted to ask you, now that you've been in the bubble for a couple of days, last time Jody Shelley and I talked to you about a week ago, you weren't sure what the bubble was going to be like. What's it been like for you and your team the first couple of days?
I tell you, it's one of the most organized things I've seen in such a crazy situation. The league has done a terrific job here as far as making the athletes and all the bubble people as comfortable as possible. It really is, Bobby. They've done a terrific job. But you're locked down. I mean, you're not going anywhere. You have some tunnels that you can get over to the rink to maybe watch some of the exhibition games. There's certain restaurants that you can go to right now in the first 5 days of this that is set for you and just you, it's the team, at a certain time that you can go there and eat. So it's very disciplined. Temperature, you get checked every day for health. I think the league has done a terrific job, but you're not going anywhere. You're here.
Well, that's right up your alley.
Well, yeah. This social distancing and stuff like that, I don't mind this at all. Although there's a lot of things, there's a lot of people here, but everybody tries to keep their distance. And the way the schedules are, remember, we have 7 hockey teams in this hotel, plus personnel and trainers and all, and you really don't run into one another that much because of the schedule, the practice times, of this, of that. So they've really kept us at a distance in a very good way.
I talked to some of your players here over the last couple of days, and I kind of half jokingly, half seriously said that, this sets up really well for you, because I think given the opportunity to get your team and just take them away from everything and let them be focused on hockey and let them be focused on one another, you would take that every single time you hit the playoffs, wouldn't you?
Yeah, and especially, I think it lends well to us right now as far as what we have gone through as a team really the past couple of years, with quite a bit of adversity and just some really different things that have gone on with the team. And we've really bought into playing as a team. I can't express that enough. I know I say it all the time, and the operative word, as a team, is so important for this club. We're not filled with game breakers. We're not. And I think we're the youngest team in this tournament again now this year. So to group it together, bond together, and just hunker down here, I think it fits with our mentality that we stress here very well. And I'm proud to be with the group. I see them as a group sometimes in the hotel. I see them all together. I love seeing that. I love seeing that type of camaraderie. And, if just get off the bus from practice and there's 10 of them in a small little place, Nick's buying some muffins for them or something like that, or some sort of snack before they go up to their room. It's so healthy for any team. I think it really bodes well for this team and just staying together as a club.
Boy, how times have changed. It used to be buying a beer after practice. Now it's buying muffins.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what they're buying. I don't put my nose in there, and I don't think they wanted me around, quite honestly. But yeah, I know they said Nick's buying, but I heard the word a couple of muffins. It was just a little bakery area, and that stuff's good. And listen, the most important thing is that your family is safe and healthy back home. If they weren't, and there was a problem, we'd be sending the player home to take care of that. We haven't had that problem. I think everybody's safe. And so it allows them to free themselves up and be together. And you know how it is, Bobby, on the road. Coaches always want that on the road because you get away the distraction. there's major distractions. Let's face it, this is a worldwide health crisis. But we are in an area here where this is what we do. This is our job, and we have nowhere to go. We're all together, and I think it just takes away some of that anxiety, and just they stick together here.
You know, Torch, you mentioned about being the youngest team again. I want to ask you about a couple of young guys. The last scrimmage that I saw you guys play, and again, I know it's a scrimmage and it's against your own team, but the Alexander Wenberg, Alexander Texier, Emil Bemstrom line really stood out in that game last Friday. My question to you is, have they continued to stand out to you since you've gotten to Toronto?
They're not a line anymore.
Well, then that answers that question, doesn't it? What do you have there?
Yeah, so I don't know what the lines are going to be tomorrow, Bobby. I think Wendy's had a really good camp. I do think Texier has had a really good camp. I think Bemmer's been okay. I think the coaches disagree with me a little bit. They think he's been really good. I think he's been okay. There are certain things I look for as far as the attentive part of it and understanding the drills right away. So Wendy's been really good. He's been outstanding. And Wendy's going to play this way against the other team, too. It's a lot easier to play in a scrimmage when you're playing against guys that you're having lunch with an hour later. Wendy's going to play the way he's played in the scrimmages as it is against another team in a different color uniform, and you're not going to be with them an hour later. And it's such an important part if we're going to have a chance to be successful is that center ice position with him.
Look, I'm not dumb enough to ask you about your goaltender once you get to the Toronto series, but I will ask you if you plan on getting them both some work against the Bruins.
It'll be a split game.
Is it the last opportunity for them to try to impress you and win that starting job?
Yeah, I think that we've had a lot of conversations about that. That's probably the biggest question mark who we go with. And having said that, we're not talking here, but I'm back with you, maybe helping coach your son's baseball team. If we didn't have the goaltending that we had, we would not be here if we didn't have the goaltending from both of these guys. So they both deserve the opportunity. They could both play in the series. They could both play in the same game. Because I'm in the mindset of this is a sprint, and I'm not waiting to get a guy going in a game. I'm going to go with the guys that are going. That's from goaltender right on out. And so we're, it's new for them now. This is going to be their, we consider the play in a playoff game for us. This is new for them in a different situation, a little bit higher pressure. But we were worried about them when it was new for them in the regular season, and they were the backbone of this hockey club.
If you were here coaching baseball with me, that would be the toughest 18-year-old baseball team in this state.
As long as the parents stay away. That's crazy. The parents.
Yeah. Good luck with that one. Hey, last thing I'll ask you, Torts, what do you expect the intensity level to be like against Boston? What do you need it to be like against Boston?
Yeah, and Bob, you got to be really careful here too. And when I was a younger coach, you kick them. You got to play harder. Listen. The scrimmage games tailed off. The intensity tailed off as we played more and more. I think all coaches went through it. We knew all the coaches involved in this tournament knew they had to scrimmage a lot more than they usually like to, but the teams just hadn't played games in 4 months. But then they fell apart because it's boring for the players. All the practice time has gotten boring for the players. This exhibition game, there's going to be more of an edge to it. Certainly because it's against another team. It's against the Bruins and a very highly respected team in this league. But I don't think you can ever get an exhibition game to the level that you'd be playing at in a playoff game. You're not. And if a coach thinks you can, he's crazy. But it's certainly going to be a much stiffer contest, a much more competitive game than we had our last couple of scrimmage games.
Torch, thank you so much. Always appreciate it, and good luck against Boston.
All right, Bobby. Great talking to you. Be well.
That is Blue Jackets head coach John Tortorella. You heard what he had to say. He likes Alexander Wenberg. He likes what Wenberg has done in this camp. Listen, he doesn't always have complimentary things to say about Alexander Wenberg. Quite the contrary. He's been hard on that guy. And I think that he sees the possibility that Wenberg is ready to step up in these playoffs. We're all going to find out. But believe me, if he's going to step up and if he's going to be a factor, John Tortorella will be his biggest backer. There's no question. He's been waiting. He's been trying to get that out of him. I don't know if it's going to happen or not. Neither does John Tortorella. Neither do you. Only Alexander Wenberg knows. And it's going to be his mental approach that will decide much of that. So he likes Wenberg. Not so high on Bemstrom right now, not as high as some of his other assistant coaches are, as you heard him say. So interesting storylines throughout all of this. And the goalies, yeah, they each get a chance, and they'll play it out amongst themselves to figure out who is going to be the starter come Sunday against the Toronto Maple Leafs. But tonight it's an exhibition game against the Boston Bruins. It's not for points, but it is for pride, and it is for experience. The experience that you haven't had in almost 5 months since the last time you played a game in the NHL. And both teams are on the same page with that. Now, Boston's got a little bit longer rope here because they don't have a play-in series. They have to play a round-robin tournament. So they've got more leeway. If they make a mistake, not a big deal. If the Blue Jackets make a mistake, once they start playing another opponent, they're in big trouble right off the bat. So, but still, it's going to be important for both of these teams to get out there and see what they can do tonight. It's time now for our game preview, being brought to you by Moo Express Car Wash, I should say. They are the home of the Unlimited Wash Club. And joining me today to help preview this game tonight from NBCSports.com in Boston, I'm joined by Joe Haggerty. Well, Joe, there's no question that the biggest thing for the Boston Bruins has been the David Pastrnak situation during the camp and having to leave and go back into quarantine. I know he's back with the team right now. There is question whether or not he's going to play against the Blue Jackets. What's your feeling on that?
Yeah, I think he might end up playing. You know, he's 24 years old. He's always in good shape. I think he's one of those guys that he's young enough that he bounces back really quickly. I think, frankly, after missing all that practice time, the Bruins are going to want to get him reps as much as they can and feed him reps as much as they can before the actual games start. So my guess would be he's going to be in there, and the Bruins are probably going to play a lot of their regular guys to get them some game action before they get into the round-robin tournament. Obviously, they have a little bit of a luxury because the 3 round-robin games are going to allow them to warm up as well before the 4 rounds of the playoffs really begin for them. But I do think they're going to do a lot of the things they normally do during the exhibition against Columbus and take it pretty seriously, as we're seeing with a lot of these exhibition games that are being played. So if I was a betting man, I would tell Blue Jackets fans, you're probably going to see number 88 against them tomorrow night.
That's not really good news, by the way, on this side. That had to be frustrating for him, though. I mean, you spend all of these months kind of in quarantine, and then he finally gets back with the team and has to go back into quarantine. I would imagine it was even more frustrating the second time around.
For sure. I think it was frustrating for him knowing all of his players all his teammates were out there practicing and getting ready, and he was stuck on the sidelines. He was able to skate one day with a smaller group at practice, so he got a little bit of a taste of it and then had to go right back into quarantine. I'm sure that was frustrating as well for him. But, you know, on the other side of it, look, he came from the Czech Republic. His quarantine from traveling internationally spilled over into the start of Phase 3 training camp for the Bruins. If he wanted to avoid all of this, he could have come over a little bit earlier like almost everybody else on the Bruins team did, and they were ready to go on that Monday when the Phase 3 training camp started. So, you know, frustrating for him, and I think probably a little frustrating for the Bruins that he didn't just do what everybody else did and was just full guns a-blazing on that first Monday. So, but like I said before, I think because he's so skilled, I think because he's got young skating legs, I think because of his game and how hard he practices and keeps himself in shape. And part of the reason he got into trouble with the quarantine is because he was skating with others and trying to stay in shape while he couldn't practice with the Bruins. I think for all of those reasons, he's going to hit the ground running pretty fast. The other guy that's still in quarantine now that was with him, Andre Kasha, I think there's a lot more frustration with him that he's not even with the team in Toronto right now based on the circumstances and the way they played out.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask you about Andre Kasha. Obviously, this is a guy that they acquired in a trade, so they expected him to be a big part of what was going to go on in the postseason. And now, as you said, he's not even in the bubble. What's going on there?
Yeah, they basically penciled him in before the start of Phase 3 camp as the second-line right winger. He played a handful of games after getting traded over from Anaheim. He actually had a concussion when he first arrived in Boston after the trade, so he didn't even start playing when he first got here. It was a few games before he got in. So he only played 6 games with the Bruins before the season went on pause. And now you fast forward to now, he's not able to skate at all during training camp. He's not able to travel with the team to Toronto. And as Bruce Cassidy said the other day, he barely knows the guy as a player and as a person. So it's not automatically going to be his job when he does finally come back. He's probably going to have to quarantine for almost a week, or at least 4 days, when he does finally make it to Toronto and meet up with his teammates. So young guys, Jack Studnicka and Anders Bjork, are going to get chances in his spot on the second line. If one of them plays well, Kasha may have to wait a while before he gets to play, even when he's cleared to play. And I wouldn't quite say he's in the doghouse. I'd say that's too strong of language right now, but he's certainly not helping himself with the way things have played out here.
Well, we know Anders Bjork a little bit from seeing him play. Studnicka, give me the lowdown on that. And which one of these guys has a chance to really grab that spot on the second line right now?
Yeah, Studnicka's going to get the first look. 6'1", 6'2", 200-pound kid, pretty young, natural center, pretty good two-way player, natural goal scorer, has great hands and a great shot. The Bruins were hesitant to play him on the wing because they wanted him to develop as a center. He's really kind of the next hope as a top 6 center because David Krejci and Patrice Bergeron, are well into their 30s now and getting older. So he's kind of the next generation that might be a top 6 center for this team. But I think based out of necessity and the way things have played out, they're going to at least give him a look. I would expect him actually to be the right wing against Columbus with David Krejci and see how he does on the wing. See if that goal scoring and that ability to shoot the puck meshes with a playmaker like David Krejci. As far as Bjork goes, speed, pretty good shot. He continues to work on his offensive skills. A few years ago was the top forward prospect in the Bruins organization. Had some shoulder injuries that set him back a little bit, but you can tell he's just starting to find his confidence, identity as an NHL player. And the speed that he plays with, if he can be a little more aggressive, a little more physical at times, and look for a shot a little bit more, I think you're going to start to see the offense really come together for him too. So both of those guys, I think, are going to get looks on that second line as long as Kasha is out.
We talked about the Pastrnak and the Kasha situation there. Also, Zdeno Chara ran into a situation where he was, did he miss a practice or he was late for practice? His test results weren't back on time, right?
Right. Yeah, and then that happened throughout camp for the Bruins. The 2 weeks they were in Phase 3 camp, there were players that were not there one day or missed a couple of days, and then they'd be back. And I think the majority of them, from talking to sources, from talking to the players' agents, a majority of those situations were because tests were getting back late. And it makes me wonder if we're going to see this once the games start getting played. Just the sheer amount of testing. They have to test everybody in each of these NHL teams' traveling parties. That means 50 people per NHL team, all 24 teams. They're testing them every single day. And if they start to run into delays with some of these testing, which I think will happen as they ramp up just the volume of testing that they're doing, you may run into a situation where a player can't play because they haven't gotten the test back. It's going to be interesting to see if that actually happens. But this was the first case once they got to Toronto of a player not being able to play because the test came back late.
It'll be interesting if that happens to see who the player is. Because
yeah. It's a Toronto-based lab that's doing the testing, so it's going to be interesting if the teams that are playing against the Maple Leafs, so their testing starts to get delayed. That'll be a nice conspiracy theory for everybody.
Well, the good news is for the Blue Jackets that even if they take out some of the top guys, everybody that they brought on this roster played in the NHL for a pretty good stretch this year because of the number of injuries. So it would hurt, but it wouldn't be like you're bringing in an inexperienced guy from the American Hockey League. But that's a good tip off there. I'm going to watch for that. All of a sudden, if Nick Foligno, Oliver Bjorkstrand, and Seth Jones can't play in Game 1, I know there's
Elvis can't play. But if Elvis isn't allowed in the building, that might be a problem.
Yeah. Well, the good news there is they have 2 guys that are kind of neck and neck battling for the spot. But actually, that leads me to the next thing with the Bruins. that is not a question with the Boston Bruins. I mean, Tuukka Rask is the man. We saw him up close and personal in the second round last year. He took over that series. He made sure that the Bruins continued on in that. And I guess the goalies, to an extent, are the question here, right? Because, yeah, everybody else can come back and skate, but these guys went for like 4 months and didn't look at really good quality shots until just the last 2 weeks in training camps.
Yeah, as Tuukka Rask was saying to Catherine Tappett on NBC yesterday, he spent 4 months changing diapers. He just has a newborn daughter and 3 young daughters in his house. So he was playing dad and changing diapers for 4 months instead of playing hockey. And now he's getting pushed into a extremely high pressure situation where they're going 0 to 100 miles an hour awfully quickly. And it will be a challenge for all the goaltenders. And a team like the Bruins, they led the league in goals against average. They won the Jennings Trophy. Tuukka Rask and Yaroslav Halak, for my money, are the best goaltending duo in the NHL. And the Bruins rely heavily on Tuukka Rask to play at an elite level to have success, particularly in the playoffs, like you said, as you saw against the Blue Jackets last year. And not only is it about knocking off the rust and being able to play at a high level for Tuukka Rask after that inactivity, but I think it's also still, there are some questions to be answered still for him about getting the Bruins over the hump to win the Stanley Cup. He's been to the Stanley Cup Finals twice and has not been able to help the Bruins get over the finish line. He was not good in Game 7 against the St. Louis Blues last year. There have been times in the past in the postseason in big games when he has not been as good as he's been at other times. So, there's also a whole nother set of questions about his legacy, about his ability to play in big games, and his ability to do what Tim Thomas did with the Bruins in 2011 and kind of push them over the top from the goaltending position. So there is actually a lot of questions to be answered and things on the line for Tuukka Rask in this particular postseason.
The Bruins finished the shortened regular season with 100 points. And now they're one of those 4 teams that has to play a round robin for seeding in the Eastern Conference. How has that gone over with the organization?
Well, I think they wish, as most of the top seeds do and did, that the regular season, that a little more weight was put towards what they accomplished in the regular season. And I think, even if you gave them some kind of percentage of points, or you already gave them some points before the round robin tourney towards securing that top spot, that some kind of nod was given to the teams that were at the top of the conferences in the Eastern Western Conference, particularly like you said with the Bruins, where they were the President's Trophy winner. You would have liked something to happen where they were given credit for that. But I mean, I think there's also an acknowledgement from the Bruins that to be the best, you got to beat the best, and you got to go through everybody. And and then in this particular situation with this tournament too, how valuable is home ice advantage going to be where there are no crowds? And I think that lessens some of it. Obviously, the lowest seed in the round robin in the East could end up facing the Pittsburgh Penguins in the first round, and that would be a tough matchup for them. And that would be a situation where the lower seed might bite you. But, I don't think they were too worked up about it. They would have liked it to have been a little bit more credit for the 100 points. But, the Bruins are a pretty resilient bunch, and they moved on pretty quickly.
How does it work? Because I'll be honest with you, being that the Blue Jackets are in this play-in series, I know that there's, in the round robin, they get points for this or that, but I didn't look into the specifics because my team's not involved in that. So what are the specifics of how they're going to decide that seeding in the top 4?
It's based on won and loss record in the 3 games against each other. And then there's a tiebreaker for, I believe it's what they did during the regular season. So if 2 teams are tied, one team will get the tiebreaker. The Bruins will own the tiebreakers basically against every other team. But that's really the only advantage they got out of 100 points and being the best team in the NHL during the regular season. If they go out, if they're not ready to play, if they stumble, if they lose all 3 games, they're going to end up being in the bottom spot. And like I said, they're going to have to face, presumably you would think the Penguins are going to win, and they're going to be the top seed coming out of the qualifying round, and they would have to play the Pittsburgh Penguins, a loaded team, in the first round, which is going to be tough for any of those top seed teams coming out of the round robin.
Well, you mentioned before, because they're in the round robin tournament, they have a little bit of extra leeway before they are playing games that are going to decide their elimination from the Stanley Cup playoffs. The Blue Jackets don't. They have just the game against the Bruins, and that's your lone tune-up. But do you expect this game to be as close to a regular season game as you can get at this point, coming back after 4.5 months?
I think so, because I think you really don't have any time to get going. I think the exhibition games are going to be taken pretty seriously, and I think the round-robin games are going to be taken very seriously by the top seeds. The only thing about the round-robin games that they're going to treat a little differently than the regular playoffs, the Bruins, is Yaroslav Halak is definitely going to play at least one of those games in the round-robin to get him some game action, to be ready in case they need him, whether it's injury, whether it's testing, whatever. If Tuukka Rask is pulled out of the equation for a bit, they want to make sure that Halak has some playing time and has seen some live action before he has to get thrust in there. But aside from that, I think you're going to see the Bruins take all of these games very seriously, knowing they've only got 4, shots to warm up before the real games start to happen. And, like I said, I don't think they want to fall on their face in the 3 round-robin games and then all of a sudden have to play against Sid and Geno Malkin and, guys that won back-to-back Stanley Cups in the Pittsburgh Penguins in the first round of the playoffs. That is certainly not something they want to do.
Interesting in these matchups for these exhibition games, too, because it could go another way, whereas if the Bruins hold on to their spot and the Blue Jackets knock off the Toronto Maple Leafs, we could see a rematch of last year already.
Yeah, and that would be interesting, right? I would love to see that. I'd love to see a nice effort. I think, a John Tortorella coached team, the Blue Jackets, is going to compete hard, is going to make the other team work for it, and is capable of upsets. And I really like the Blue Jackets goaltending situation. I think they did a good job this year finding some guys to fill in after losing Sergei Bobrovsky. We all know that it's going to be difficult for them to manufacture the offense that they lost with Artemi Panarin in a playoff series, but they've still got those stud defensemen. They've still got some very good players. They still are very well coached, and they have, the great goaltending situation. And they could certainly be capable of an upset given all of the things they have going for them. We got a little visitor over here.
Yeah, I was going to ask you. Hey, how are you? I was going to ask you if you wish you were in the NHL bubble, and I see
absolutely
yes, and it's a yes and a no in that, right? No, your interviews wouldn't be interrupted, but you're with the family, and that's great.
Do you wish Daddy was in Toronto in the NHL bubble right now? No. There you go. There's your answer.
Perfect. That's perfect. Joe, thanks for helping me break that down a little bit. I really do appreciate it, and best of luck. If we play in the first round against each other, I'll talk again.
You got it, Bob. Looking forward to it. I'll bring Finn along next time, too.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks. Appreciate it. That was nice there at the end. Joe to bring the family in or his son to bring himself in. Sometimes that's how you get on camera, by the way, is you just have to barge in and put yourself on camera. Nobody asks you. They don't invite you. You just kind of invite yourself. It works. Believe me, I know it works. So that was a fun little end to that. Thanks to Joe for being on with me today. Thanks to Blue Jackets head coach John Tortorella for joining us. Blue Jackets and the Boston Bruins tonight, 7:00 game. Pregame coverage starting at 6:30 on the Blue Jackets radio network, and that includes our flagship station in Columbus, 97.1 The Fan. And you can also hear that game through BlueJackets.com. You can get it on the Blue Jackets app, and you can get it on Sirius XM radio. And on Fox Sports Ohio tonight, they are going to be carrying this exhibition game. They're just going on right at the top of the hour at 7:00. So they're not doing pregame or postgame. They are doing the intermissions, but Jody Shelley and Jeff Rimmer will have the call for you. And I believe it's Dave Metzold working with Jean-Luc Grandpierre tonight during the intermissions. So tune in. Take a look at what we're dealing with. We will be at Nationwide Arena calling the game off monitors, doing our best for you, and look forward to having you there with us because we're all together as one, as you know. That's going to do it for today's edition of CBJin30, presented by Telhio Credit Union. It's game day, baby. Get ready to go. Until tomorrow, I'm Bob McElligott saying so long.